First contact in the void. Marcus Chen never expected anything extraordinary during his routine cargo runs through the Carina Nebula. The aging freighter Stellar Wind carried supplies between the outer colonies, making just enough profit to keep the ship running and food on his table. But as he guided his vessel through a particularly dense patch of stellar dust, his sensors picked up something that would change everything. A distress beacon, barely detectable against the nebula's background radiation. "Computer, analyze signal pattern," Marcus commanded, already adjusting his course. The response came immediately. "Unknown configuration. Signal characteristics do not match any registered emergency frequencies." Marcus frowned, his fingers drumming against the worn control panel. Standard protocol dictated ignoring unidentified signals. Too many pirates used fake distress calls as bait, but something about this one felt different. The pattern was too complex, too elegant to be a trap. "Might as well take a look," he muttered, engaging the ship's stealth systems. As the stellar wind drew closer, the nebula's purple haze parted to reveal a sight that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. The vessel before him was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Its hull seemed to be made of living crystal, now cracked and dulled. Intricate patterns of light pulsed weakly across its surface like failing synapses. It was beautiful, even in its death throes. Marcus's scanners revealed a single life sign inside, fading rapidly. The ship's atmosphere was venting slowly through multiple breaches. Whatever, or whoever, was in there didn't have long. "Computer, analyze structural integrity for docking." The response wasn't encouraging. The alien vessel's hull was so compromised that a standard docking procedure might tear it apart. Marcus made his decision. He sealed his pressure suit and prepared the emergency airlock. "Computer, maintain position at 50 meters. I'm going EVA." The space between ships was treacherous, filled with crystalline debris that glinted like stars. Marcus navigated carefully, using his suit's thrusters in short bursts. As he approached the damaged vessel, he could see the extent of the damage more clearly. This wasn't an accident. The ship had been attacked. He found an entry point through a jagged tear in the hull. The interior was even stranger than the outside. Organic curves blended with crystalline technology in ways that defied human engineering. The air was thin but breathable, tinged with an odd sweetness that made him glad he was wearing his helmet. The life sign led him to what appeared to be a control chamber. There, suspended in a web of crystalline filaments, he found her. She was humanoid, but clearly alien. Her skin had a pearlescent quality that shifted between deep azure and violet. Instead of hair, delicate tendrils that resembled fiber optic cables framed her face, each one glowing faintly. She wore what appeared to be living armor, now damaged and dark. Her eyes opened as Marcus approached. They were entirely silver, with no visible pupils, yet somehow conveyed both intelligence and fear. "Stay back," she said in perfect English, her voice carrying despite the thin atmosphere. "The neural interface, it's unstable." Marcus raised his hand slowly. "I'm here to help. Your ship is failing. You need to come with me." She shook her head weakly. "Can't. Survive disconnection. My consciousness, partially merged with ship's systems, separating wood." A violent shudder ran through the vessel, and several of the crystal filaments shattered. The alien woman gasped in pain. "There has to be a way," Marcus insisted, moving closer despite her warning. "Some way to transfer or protect your consciousness." Her silver eyes studied him for a long moment. "There is, but you won't like it. My species, we can temporarily share our consciousness with compatible hosts. Your mind, it could shelter mine during transfer." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the failing life support. "You want to go inside my mind." Not want. Need. Another tremor, more violent than the first. "Choose quickly, human. Death approaches, and it cares nothing for our comfort." Marcus looked at the dying ship around them, then back at the alien woman. Everything in his training screamed that this was a terrible idea. But he hadn't come this far to watch someone die. How do we do this? Her relief was palpable. Remove your glove. Place your hand on the crystal near my head. I will do the rest. She paused. And human. My name is Lyra. Marcus, he replied, already pulling off his right glove. Marcus Chen. The crystal was warm under his palm, pulsing with the same failing rhythm as the ship's hull. Lyra closed her silver eyes in concentration. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the world exploded into light and sensation. Marcus felt his consciousness expand, stretch, merge with something vast and alien yet somehow familiar. He saw memories that weren't his, crystal spires reaching into purple skies, ships that sang as they sailed between stars, a civilization that had mastered the art of sharing minds as easily as humans shared words. He also felt Lyra's fear, her desperation, and beneath it all, a secret she guarded so carefully that even this mental merge couldn't reveal it fully. When reality reasserted itself, Marcus found himself on his knees, supporting Lyra's physical form as the crystal web retracted from her body. She was lighter than he expected, her armor now inert and lifeless. "We need to move," he said, but the words felt strange in his mouth, because part of him was now Lyra, and part of her was him, and nothing would ever be simple again. They made it back to the stellar wind, just as the alien vessel's containment field finally failed. The crystalline ship imploded silently, scattering glittering shards across the nebula like tears. As Marcus laid Lyra's unconscious form in his ship's medical bay, he felt her presence in his mind. Weak but stable, he had 1,000 questions, but they would have to wait. Right now, they needed distance between themselves and whatever had attacked her ship. The stellar wind's engines hummed to life, and Marcus plotted a course for the nearest safe port. As the stars blurred into streaks of light, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger than a simple rescue. In his mind, Lyra stirred briefly, a flutter of alien thoughts and emotions. One came through clearly: gratitude, mixed with worry. Whatever she was running from, it wasn't over. Marcus checked his weapons, systems, and shields. He was just a cargo pilot, but now he was involved in something far beyond simple trading. He only hoped he was ready for whatever came next. The nebula swirled behind them, purple and beautiful and deadly, as the stellar wind carried its unusual passengers toward an uncertain future. Neural bridge. The space between thoughts was a strange place to exist. Marcus found himself drifting through memories that weren't his own. Glimpses of crystal cities floating among clouds, ceremonies conducted in chambers of living light, and a desperate flight through unfamiliar stars. Each memory carried with it echoes of Lyra's emotions: wonder, pride, fear, and something deeper she kept carefully guarded. In the medical bay of the stellar wind, Lyra's physical form remained unconscious, her pearlescent skin now pale and almost translucent. The ship's basic medical scanners were barely able to make sense of her alien physiology, but they confirmed she was stable, if weak. Marcus sat beside her, trying to sort through the cascade of shared consciousness. "This would be easier if you just talked to me," he muttered. "Talking requires energy I cannot spare," Lyra's thoughts whispered in his mind. "The neural bridge is taxing enough. Then just show me what I need to know. Who attacked you? What are we running from?" Instead of answering directly, Lyra shared another memory. Marcus found himself standing in a vast chamber, its walls alive with pulsing light. He saw through Lyra's eyes as she faced a council of beings similar to herself, their fiber-optic hair writhing with barely contained anger. "The humans cannot be trusted with the Nexus," one counselor declared. "They are too young, too aggressive. They would use it as a weapon." Through the memory, Marcus felt Lyra's frustration. "They are different than you imagine. I have studied them, their creativity, their adaptability. These are strengths, not flaws. The Nexus would be safe with them." "You overstep your authority, Princess," another counselor warned. "The decision has been made. The humans will be contained, their expansion limited. For their own good and ours. The memory shifted, dissolved. Marcus found himself back in his own mind, processing what he'd seen. Princess, he asked aloud. Your royalty. Was, Lyra corrected. I forsook my title when I chose to warn humanity. Warn us about what? This Nexus thing. Before Lyra could respond, the ship's proximity alarm blared. Marcus rushed to the bridge, his mind still tangled with Lyra's. Through their shared consciousness, he felt her recognition and fear. 3 ships had emerged from FTL travel, their crystalline hulls gleaming with the same technology as Lyra's destroyed vessel. But where hers had been elegant and smooth, these were angular, aggressive. Hunter-class vessels, Lyra's thoughts provided. They track by consciousness signature. They can sense me within you. Marcus checked his ship's systems. The Stellar Wind was a sturdy cargo vessel, but it wasn't built for combat against advanced alien warships. Any suggestions? Yes, there is a phenomenon your people call the maelstrom, a region of space where quantum fluctuations make normal tracking impossible. Marcus knew of it. The maelstrom was a shipping lane nightmare, a swirling mass of spatial distortions that had claimed countless vessels. That's suicide, he protested. Not with our combined abilities. Your human intuition, my knowledge of quantum dynamics. Together, we might survive. Alone, we will certainly die. The hunter ships were closing fast, their weapons charging. Marcus had seconds to decide. All right, he said, plotting the course. But when we survive this, you're telling me everything. If we survive, you will know everything I know. That is the nature of the neural bridge. The Stellar Wind's engines screamed as Marcus pushed them beyond safe limits. The hunter ships opened fire, energy beams slicing through space where his ship had been moments before. Through Lyra's knowledge, Marcus understood their weapons could shred his hull like paper. They'd reached the edge of the maelstrom, where normal space began to twist and distort. The hunter ships followed, their crystalline hulls reflecting the chaotic energies around them. What happened next was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. His consciousness merged more fully with Lyra's, their combined awareness expanding to encompass the ship itself. He could feel the quantum fluctuations as physical things, could see the patterns in the chaos. Together, they guided the Stellar Wind through impossible spaces. Where Marcus's instincts said, turn, Lyra's knowledge refined the movement into precise calculations. Where her alien logic might have hesitated, his human intuition pushed them forward. Behind them, one of the hunter ships miscalculated, its crystalline form shattering as it collided with a quantum eddy. The second ship vanished into a spatial fold, lost to whatever dimension lay beyond. The third pulled back, unwilling to risk destruction. When they emerged from the maelstrom, Marcus was drenched in sweat, his mind buzzing from the intense connection. In the medical bay, Lyra's physical form stirred, her silver eyes opening for the first time since the rescue. That, she said aloud, her voice weak but clear, was impressive. Marcus slumped in his chair, exhausted but grinning. Guess humans aren't so primitive after all. I never thought you were. Lyra attempted to sit up, then winced. But the neural bridge confirmed what I already suspected. Your species has potential beyond anything my people imagined. Enough potential to handle this Nexus thing. Lyra's expression grew serious. The Nexus is complicated. It is power and knowledge and terrible responsibility. But yes, I believe humanity is ready. That's why they want to stop me. The old guard fears change. And now, what's our next move? We need to reach the human colonial government. I have proof of what my people plan. Proof of experiments they've already conducted on distant human settlements, but will be hunted every step of the way. Marcus checked their position. The maelstrom had pushed them far off course, into a sector he barely recognized. Their fuel was low, the ship's systems strained from the escape. Then we better get moving, he said. But first, you need to heal. and I need to understand exactly what I've gotten myself into." Lyra reached out, her hand barely touching his. The neural bridge hummed between them, no longer overwhelming but present, like a background harmony. "Understanding will come," she promised. "But Marcus, thank you, not just for saving me, but for trusting me. Few humans would have taken such a risk." He shrugged, uncomfortable with the gratitude. "Yeah, well, next time I rescue an alien princess, I'll try to ask more questions first." Her laughter, both mental and physical, was like chimes in the wind. But beneath it, Marcus sensed her worry. The hunters would return, better prepared next time. And somewhere out there, her people were preparing to contain humanity, unaware that their actions might spark a war that would destroy both civilizations. The stellar wind drifted through unfamiliar stars, carrying its unlikely pair of revolutionaries. They had survived the first test of their partnership, but harder challenges lay ahead. The neural bridge between them hummed with shared purpose and growing trust, a connection that would reshape the future of two species, if they lived long enough to see it. Hunters and prey. The colonial outpost of New Vega wasn't much to look at, a collection of prefab structures and makeshift landing pads clinging to the surface of an asteroid. But to the crew of the Stellar Wind, it was a desperately needed haven. The ship's fuel cells were nearly depleted, and both Marcus and Lyra needed real rest after their escape through the maelstrom. As they approached the landing zone, Marcus felt Lyra's anxiety spike through their neural bridge. "I know it's not exactly a luxury spaceport," he said, "but we don't have many options." "It's not that," Lyra replied, her silver eyes scanning the surrounding space. "This outpost, it's too perfect. Isolated enough to avoid attention, but with enough traffic to hide our presence. The ideal place to trap us." Marcus checked his sensors again. Nothing unusual showed up, but he'd learned to trust Lyra's instincts. Their shared consciousness had grown stronger over the past few days, and her alien perceptions often caught things his human technology missed. "We could skip it," he offered. "Try to reach the next station." Lyra shook her head, her fiber-optic hair dimming with concern. "We'd never make it, and they know that." She paused, her thoughts brushing against his. "There's something else, something familiar about this place." Before Marcus could respond, his communication system crackled to life. "Unidentified vessel. This is New Vega Control. Please transmit your registration and cargo manifest." The voice was standard enough, but something about it set off warning bells in both their minds. Through their connection, Marcus and Lyra shared a moment of perfect understanding. They were being herded. "New Vega Control, this is Stellar Wind," Marcus replied, already adjusting his course slightly. "Transmitting now." As the data streamed out, Lyra's consciousness merged more fully with his. Together, they perceived the space around them in ways neither could alone. Marcus's human intuition combined with Lyra's quantum sensitivity, revealing what the sensors couldn't. There, a distortion in the asteroid field, and there, a subtle warping of light that suggested cloaked vessels. They were surrounded. "Stellar Wind, your credentials check out," New Vega Control announced. "Please proceed to Docking Bay 7. "Acknowledged," Marcus said, his hand steady on the controls despite the tension building in his chest. Beginning approach. Through their link, Lyra shared a plan. It was reckless, dangerous, and entirely human in its audacity. Marcus couldn't help but grin. The Stellar Wind moved toward the designated landing pad, its approach perfectly routine. At the last moment, Marcus fired the emergency thrusters, throwing the ship into a spin that brought their weapons to bear on the nearest cloaked vessel. The element of surprise gave them a split-second advantage. The Stellar Wind's cargo-grade lasers weren't much against military shields, but they didn't need to be. The brief barrage disrupted the hunter ship's cloaking field, revealing its position to every legitimate vessel in the area. Chaos erupted. The exposed hunter ship was forced to decloak fully, revealing its crystalline hull to the outpost's defense systems. Alarms blared across all channels as New Vega's automated defenses activated, registering the alien vessel as a threat. Now, Lyra commanded, her consciousness guiding Marcus's hands. Together, they threw the stellar wind into a series of maneuvers that would have been impossible for either of them alone. The ship threaded through the expanding firefight, using the confusion to break free of the trap. But their hunters had prepared for this. 3 more crystalline ships decloaked ahead of them, their weapons already charging. Behind them, the compromised outpost defenses were being systematically shut down by some hidden signal. "They've infiltrated deeper than I feared," Lyra whispered, both aloud and in Marcus's mind. "The corruption has already spread to human space." Marcus diverted power from life support to shields, buying them precious seconds. "Great. Any other cheerful observations?" Instead of responding, Lyra did something unexpected. Through their neural bridge, she began feeding strange equations directly into his consciousness. At first, they made no sense, abstract quantum mathematics that his human mind couldn't process. Then, like a lens focusing, he understood. The calculations described space itself, showing how reality could fold in ways his species hadn't yet discovered. But more importantly, they revealed a flaw in the hunters' formation. Their ships, he realized. The crystalline technology, it has a resonance frequency. Yes, Lyra confirmed, one that becomes unstable when exposed to certain quantum harmonics. But triggering it would require someone crazy enough to overload their own ship's drive core. Marcus finished. "Good thing you linked minds with a human." Before Lyra could object, Marcus initiated the sequence. The stellar wind's engines screamed as he pushed them beyond their safety limits, channeling power in ways they were never designed to handle. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly as space itself began to warp around them. The hunter ships realized the danger too late. The quantum harmonics from the stellar wind's overloading core set up a feedback loop in their crystalline hulls. Fractures appeared, spreading like cracks in ice as the very structure of their vessels began to break down. Through their neural bridge, Marcus felt Lyra's mixture of horror and admiration. Her people had never considered using their own technology against them this way. It was the kind of lateral thinking that made humans both fascinating and frightening to her species. The hunter ships' hulls shattered simultaneously, their crews forced to abandon ship in emergency pods. The New Vega outpost, its systems still compromised, could only watch as the stellar wind vanished into FTL speed, riding the wave of its own near destruction. Hours later, in the relative safety of deep space, Marcus finally allowed himself to relax. The ship's core had stabilized, though several systems would need serious repairs. They were alive, but their options were running out. That, Lyra said, breaking the long silence, was either brilliant or insane. With humans, it's usually both. Marcus turned to face her. "But we can't keep running. Eventually, they'll trap us somewhere we can't escape. We need to take the fight to them." Lyra's silver eyes met his, and through their connection, he felt her resolve strengthen. "Yes," she agreed. "And I know where we need to go. But Marcus, it means going to the heart of my people's territory. The Crystal Throne itself. The seat of your government. The most heavily defended location in your empire." Marcus shook his head, but he was smiling. "Perfect. They'll never expect us to be that crazy. That's what I'm counting on." Lyra's fiber optic hair pulsed with determination. "But first, we need to gather allies. There are others among my people who share my views about humanity, and there are humans who have already discovered parts of the truth. A resistance movement. The beginnings of one. If we can reach them." She paused, her thoughts troubled. "But we'll have to be careful. The neural bridge between us is rare, unprecedented. Some will see it as proof that our species can work together. Others will see it as a threat to everything they believe." Marcus began plotting a course to their next destination, letting their shared consciousness guide his choices. Well, they're not wrong about the threat part. The real question is, are they ready for how humanity fights back when pushed? Through their bond, they shared a moment of perfect understanding. Whatever came next would change both their civilizations forever. The neural bridge between them was just the beginning. A glimpse of what might be possible if their peoples could move past fear and isolation. The stellar wind limped through space, carrying its unlikely crew toward a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy. Behind them, the hunters regrouped, their crystalline ships reforming from backup matrices. Ahead lay either hope or destruction, with no middle ground remaining. But for now, in the quiet between battles, a human and an alien princess shared thoughts and memories and plans, their minds bridged by technology and trust. And in that connection lay the seeds of something their enemies feared more than any weapon: change. Legacy of Two Worlds. The Resistance base was hidden inside a rogue planetoid drifting through the void between star systems. From the outside, it looked like just another dead rock. But as the stellar wind approached, guided by coordinates extracted from Lyra's memories, Marcus saw the truth. The entire asteroid had been hollowed out and transformed into a secret sanctuary. Through their neural bridge, Lyra shared his wonder while adding context. My people call such places world seeds, self-contained habitats meant to preserve life through catastrophe. This one is ancient, abandoned, or so my government believes. The landing bay that swallowed their ship was a bizarre fusion of technologies. Crystal matrices like those used by Lyra's people intertwined with human engineering in ways that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. Armed guards waited for them, some human, others of Lyra's species, all watching with a mixture of hope and suspicion. Well, Marcus muttered as they prepared to disembark, at least we know cooperation is possible. Lyra's response carried a hint of amusement. Possible, yes. But this place represents generations of secret collaboration. What we achieved in days through our neural bridge took them years to build. The greeting party was led by an older human woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Beside her stood one of Lyra's people, his crystalline armor bearing marks of battle damage that had been carefully repaired. Princess Lyra, the alien said, bowing slightly. We feared you had been lost when your ship disappeared. Commander Ven. Lyra inclined her head. As you can see, humanity's reputation for unexpected solutions is well earned. She gestured to Marcus. This is Marcus Chen. He saved more than my life. He helped preserve everything we've worked for. The human woman stepped forward, extending her hand. Admiral Sarah Chen, she said, causing Marcus to freeze in shock. Though I haven't used that title officially in 15 years. Not since I learned the truth and went underground. Chen. Marcus stared at her, pieces clicking into place. You're my father's sister. The one who disappeared during the Proxima crisis. The crisis that wasn't a crisis at all, Sarah confirmed grimly. But we can discuss family reunions later. Right now, we need to talk about the Nexus. They were led through corridors that told a story of desperate cooperation. Human and alien engineers worked side by side, maintaining systems that merged their technologies in revolutionary ways. Through their neural bridge, Marcus felt Lyra's satisfaction. This was what she had fought for, proof that their species could achieve amazing things together. The command center was a vast chamber dominated by a holographic display of known space. Marcus saw familiar human territories marked in blue, the Crystal Empire in purple, and between them, a swirling anomaly that made his eyes hurt to look at. The Nexus, Ven explained, noting their attention. The source of everything. Our power, our advancement, perhaps even our species' origins. Sarah touched a control, zooming in on the anomaly. We discovered it existed decades ago, but couldn't understand what we were seeing. Your people, she nodded to Lyra, have been studying it for millennia. Want to tell them what you found? Lyra stepped forward, her fiber-optic hair dimming with the weight of revelation. Through their connection, Marcus felt her gathering courage for what she had to say. The Nexus is not just a source of power, she began. It's a gateway, a connection point between realities. And it's failing. The hologram shifted, showing energy patterns that even Marcus's enhanced understanding struggled to grasp. My people believed we could control it, use it to advance our civilization. But we were wrong. The more we drew from it, the more unstable it became. Now it's going to collapse, Sarah finished, taking a significant portion of both our territories with it. Unless we work together, Marcus realized, the pieces finally falling into place. That's what this is all about. Why your people want to stop humans from expanding. Why they're hunting us. They think they can contain the damage by controlling who has access to the Nexus. Ven nodded grimly. The Crystal Throne believes isolation is the answer. Contain humanity, preserve our own civilization, and seal off the affected regions of space. Billions would die, but they consider it an acceptable cost. But there's another way, Lyra insisted. What Marcus and I achieved through our neural bridge, it's proof that our species can do more together than apart. The Nexus responds to consciousness, to intention. If enough humans and my people join minds as we have, we might be able to stabilize it, Sarah concluded. But it would mean revealing everything. The secret wars, the hidden colonies, the genetic experiments. Both our governments have committed acts they'd rather keep buried. Marcus felt Lyra's guilt through their connection. The weight of secrets she'd carried, the horror of decisions made by her people's leadership. But there was something else, a pattern he was just beginning to see. The neural bridge, he said slowly. The fact that it worked between us at all. That's not just coincidence, is it? Lyra met his gaze, her silver eyes reflecting starlight. No. My people, we've suspected for generations that we share common ancestors. The Nexus didn't just provide power, it guided evolution itself. Humanity's emergence wasn't random. You are what we once were, before we turned to crystal and quantum technology. You are our legacy, and perhaps our salvation. Ven finished. Your adaptability, your creativity, they are traits we sacrificed in our pursuit of perfection. Traits we desperately need now. The hologram shifted again, showing the spread of the Nexus's instability. At current rates, they had weeks at most before collapse began. After that, the chain reaction would be unstoppable. So, Sarah said, looking between Marcus and Lyra, the question is, what are you willing to risk to save both our worlds? Through their neural bridge, Marcus and Lyra shared a moment of perfect communication. They had already risked everything once, taking a chance on trusting each other. Now they were being asked to do it on a galactic scale. The Crystal Throne will never agree willingly, Lyra said aloud. They'll see it as surrender, an admission that their path was wrong. Then we don't ask permission, Marcus replied, a plan already forming in his mind. We show them they don't have a choice. We show everyone the truth, all at once, in a way they can't ignore. You're talking about hijacking the quantum network, Ven realized. Broadcasting directly into every crystalline matrix in the Empire. It's impossible, unless you have someone with direct access to the Crystal Throne systems. Lyra finished, a princess who knows all the security protocols, and a human crazy enough to help her use them in ways they were never intended. Sarah studied them thoughtfully. It would mean reaching the capital itself, getting past defenses designed to stop exactly this kind of infiltration. Marcus grinned. Good thing impossible rescues are becoming our specialty. Around them, the hologram continued its dire predictions, counting down to catastrophe. But through their neural bridge, Marcus and Lyra shared something stronger than fear, hope, born from the knowledge that their differences made them stronger together. The resistance base hummed with activity as plans were made and unmade. Human ingenuity merged with crystal technology, preparing for one final desperate gambit. And at the center of it all, a cargo pilot and an alien princess planned to change the course of two civilizations. Whether they would be remembered as saviors or destroyers remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. Evolution's gift. The Crystal Empire's capital world hung in space like a frozen dream. Its surface was a lattice of living crystal that pulsed with quantum energy, cities rising in geometric patterns that defied human architecture. As the stellar wind approached, cloaked in technology borrowed from the Resistance, Marcus felt Lyra's emotions surge through their neural bridge: longing, determination, and fear. Having second thoughts, he asked, though he already knew the answer. "No," Lyra replied, her silver eyes fixed on her homeworld. "But seeing it again, I understand now why my people became so afraid of change. When you build something this perfect, the thought of losing it becomes unbearable." The plan was simple in theory, impossible in practice. They would use Lyra's royal access codes to penetrate the planetary defenses, reach the quantum core that powered the Empire's communications network, and broadcast the truth about the Nexus to every crystal matrix in known space. Simple, except for the thousands of guards, automated defenses, and the fact that the entire crystal throne will sense my presence the moment we enter the atmosphere. Lyra's thoughts added dryly. Their ship slipped through the first layer of security, its hybrid systems confusing the automated scanners. The Resistance had done their work well, modifying the stellar wind with technology that was neither fully human nor fully crystal, but something new, just like them. The landing zone they'd chosen was a maintenance dock, theoretically automated but actually staffed by members of the Resistance. As the ship touched down, Marcus felt the subtle shift in crystal resonance that meant they'd been detected. "Time's up," he announced, already moving. "How long?" "Minutes at most," Lyra confirmed. They rushed from the ship, met by a small group of her people wearing maintenance uniforms. Through their neural bridge, Marcus felt their shock at seeing their princess transformed, her royal armor replaced by a hybrid suit that merged human and crystal technology. They moved through service corridors, Lyra's memories guiding them toward the quantum core. Above, they sensed more than heard the capital coming alive as awareness of their presence spread. The crystal throne was waking. The first real resistance came at a security checkpoint. Guards in full battle armor, their crystalline weapons humming with deadly energy. But before either side could act, something extraordinary happened. The neural bridge between Marcus and Lyra pulsed, expanded, reaching out to touch the minds of the guards. For a moment, everyone in the corridor shared consciousness, human intuition, and crystal precision, merging in a way that should have been impossible. The guards saw the truth about the Nexus, felt the certainty of destruction if nothing changed. More importantly, they felt the potential that lay in cooperation between their species. "Go," the lead guard said, lowering his weapon. "But hurry, others won't be so easily convinced." They ran through crystalline corridors that sang with alarm, their small group growing as more of Lyra's people joined them, each touched by the expanding neural bridge, each understanding what was at stake. The quantum core chamber was a cathedral of light, energy patterns swirling in geometric dances that made Marcus's human eyes water. At its center stood a figure he recognized from Lyra's memories, the Crystal Queen herself, surrounded by the full council. "Daughter," the Queen's voice resonated through the crystal matrices. "What have you done to yourself?" Lyra stepped forward, her hand finding Marcus's. Through their connection, he felt her drawing strength. "I've discovered what we could be, Mother, what we were meant to be." "By polluting yourself with human consciousness," one of the counselors sneered. "By betraying everything we've built. By remembering what we've lost." Lyra's voice rang with authority, the neural bridge amplifying her presence. "Look at us. So perfect, so crystalline, so dead. We stopped evolving, stopped adapting. But humanity." She squeezed Marcus's hand, and suddenly every crystal in the chamber resonated with their shared consciousness. The council staggered as awareness flooded them, not just of the Nexus's instability, but of the incredible potential that lay in combining their species' strengths. "Impossible," the Queen whispered, but her certainty was cracking. "No," Marcus said, stepping forward. "Evolution. The next step for both our species." The neural bridge expanded further, touching every mind in the capital, then spreading through the quantum network to the entire empire. Humans and crystal beings alike found themselves connected, sharing understanding that transcended language. They saw the Nexus as it truly was, not just a source of power, but a doorway to transformation. They felt the resonance between their species, the complementary strengths that could stabilize the quantum anomaly and open new paths of advancement. But the crystal throne had one last defense. The chamber's crystals began to pulse with killing energy, the council attempting to destroy what they couldn't control. "Mother, please," Lyra pleaded. "You've seen the truth. You know what's coming." The queen stared at her daughter, then at Marcus, then at the growing crowd of her own people who had joined them. In their shared consciousness, she felt their certainty, their hope. "The old ways are comfortable," she said at last. Change is terrifying." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "That's what makes it worth doing." The killing energy faded. The queen stepped down from her crystal throne, approaching Marcus and Lyra. Through the neural bridge, they felt her decision form. "Show us," she commanded. "Show us how to change." Together, human and crystal consciousness reached out to the Nexus. Its swirling quantum energies responded to their combined will, stabilizing into new patterns. The destruction that had seemed inevitable began to reverse. But it was more than just salvation. As human adaptability merged with crystal precision, new possibilities emerged. Technologies that neither species could have created alone. Understanding that transcended their individual limitations. The crystal empire transformed, its rigid perfection softening into something more viable, more alive. Human colonies bloomed with crystal technology that enhanced rather than replaced their natural evolution. And at the heart of it all, a cargo pilot and a princess stood together, their neural bridge a symbol of everything that was possible when fear gave way to trust. Years later, historians would debate whether it had been revolution or evolution, whether the changes had been inevitable or engineered. But for Marcus and Lyra, the truth was simpler. They had taken a chance on trust, on the belief that differences could be strength rather than weakness. And in doing so, they had given both their species a future neither could have achieved alone. The stellar wind still flew between worlds, now carrying diplomats and scientists instead of cargo. Its hull was a hybrid of technologies, just like its crew. And in quiet moments between stars, a human and a crystal being shared thoughts and memories and dreams, their neural bridge a reminder that the greatest journeys begin with a simple choice. The choice to see beyond what is to what could be. The choice to trust. The choice to evolve.